The Lotus 49 community prides itself on taming a car considered one of the trickiest and most brutal to drive on iRacing. So it's no surprise that one of the perennial favorites of the series is one of the scariest tracks on the service, Monza combined. It's time once again to enjoy the Talladega of Formula One racing as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The combined circuit at Monza is definitely a unique feature of this place. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, a lot of people know about Monza, but here with the 49s at the combined circuit, Joey, it's not going to be as familiar for most people.
No, but it is one of the coolest circuits and venues we've got here on iRacing. You're more familiar with the current Monza GP layout with the chicanes and whatnot. Well, this includes the old banked oval as well. We're going to see top speeds out of these open wheel cars, and it gets pretty narrow when they climb up and kind of have the combination of getting from the oval onto the current track, and then also through turns 4, 5, and 6, also known as the Lesmos, things start to get very narrow, and then of course through the only real chicane, the Variante Ascari down there, have to watch for cars overstepping the limit because it is easy to go wide out there on turn 9 and start collecting those off tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a place that they were unable to try and make a non-chicane version there through Ascari, so they're going to have to slow down. Probably one of the few places where they really need to get the car woed up. Now, as for the point situation, Mick Claridge still leads, but as we heard from him last week, he's not able to take part in any of the rest of the season, so he's going to drop down the order slowly. And we're expecting Tixier and Tyler to be the ones to watch out for. Now, Nieva's been kind of hovering around there. He's still looking for that first win. Will he be able to snatch that? Or maybe Xavier Sanchez, who's kind of been there as well. Neil Kemp's got one on the board so far this season. And he needs a little bit more consistency to get in the game. But it's definitely tight. It's been a bit mixed up. Claridge has taken the host of the wins so far, and that's why he is leading, but obviously no longer going to be a factor. Now, we also have an F2 championship, which has been rather interesting in its own right.
Actually, pretty impressive out front. Glenn Becker and Don Peak currently battling it out. You see there's only 13 points separating those top two, but check out the points there between Bjorn Ackerman, all the way down to Douglas Nelson. That includes Andrew Ang, Jeff Saunders, Jan Steffen, Rolly Wallbank, and Douglas Nelson. They're only separated by a few points each there, and even include Terry Traumhauser and Tim Porter in there. I think it's really going to be down to attrition and which more of these F2 drivers starts to be consistent on the results.
Yeah, that certainly seems to have helped in most of those championships. Now, in the Cup of Nations, it's tied. The United States and the United Kingdom up there on 364 points, with Spain trailing. Australia actually jumping up ahead of Singapore. A bit of a surprise on that one. And then Germany well behind them in 6. Basically, it's the top 5 that are have a more realistic shot of this one, at least right now. Things could always change around. We'll see after today, because this is a bit of a crapshoot sort of race. Speaking of this race, we have our race details. Joey, what are they up against?
Yeah, facing round 8 of 12 here, about 3/4 of the way through this season. Going to be doing 15 laps on the combined Monza circuit, open setup, so each one of these competitors has been tweaking and tuning their own setup to best fit them during this race, and no spare car, which means the cars do take damage, and if you pick any of that up, unfortunately you have to carry it with you through the race unless you come down pit lane and get that fixed at a penalty. And drive-through penalty at 17x and disqualification at 25. I don't think we're going to see that come into play, Joe, especially with how fragile these cars can be at the speeds they're reaching here at this circuit.
I'm glad you mentioned the speeds. Yeah, in the slipstream, we've seen them get as high as 215 to 217 miles per hour coming into Curva Grande. They are lightning fast here. Remember, this is 1967 technology. So yes, modern F1 gets pretty fast going down that front stretch, but this is in a lot more ridiculous cars that we're seeing them do this. Topi Kortaniemi has yet to set a time. In fact, most drivers got out immediately to set a time because of the fact that it takes so long to get around this circuit. So we'll hopefully be getting the first one in pretty soon here, as I do see, yeah, it looks like Kortaniemi coming down to Ascari. Should take a lap in just about 30 seconds time as he gets it woed up for the only chicane left on the circuit. Back and forth through there. Thankfully, no aerodynamics to worry about tweaking on these cars, because there were no wings back in 67. Jim Shedlick is back. Now, there's a name we haven't seen in a bit. Tends to show up at places such as Bathurst and various tracks that are difficult. And, well, here you have one of the legendary difficult tracks.
Definitely an oddball, and we were talking about it pre-race that I love this format. I love the track configuration with the combination and the high speeds here. I just think it's so much fun to watch, and it's even more fun to race.
Kortaniemi gets the provisional pole away from Gwen Old. Now, Gwen actually has a pretty high I rating on ovals, so I guess it makes sense that she has got herself well up there on the first lap here on a track that is half oval. This is the original Roval, if you will. So this is certainly played to her favor. Tixier, got to worry about where he's going to put it here. Remember, an off track will still delete your lap around this place, but he gets it clean. A 2:21.4 will put him on the front row.
Yeah, I was watching Sebastian through that lap and looked pretty clean. And here we got Togo Hisada currently on provisional pole, right along board with them. See how steep this banking is. You know, we're used to Talladega and Daytona now. Well, this is where it all came from.
In fact, I believe this is slightly steeper than both of those tracks, if I recall. I'll need to double check that. Hisada actually took his first win in this series at an oval, which was definitely not as steeply banked. That was at Indianapolis. But again, another driver that seems to thrive when we go to the circle tracks. So the Japanese driver will probably be a factor in this one. And only drivers to not get a lap on that first one: Gary Ho, Jorge Nieva, Jason Clapper, no surprise there, Marco Salgado, Jeff Saunders, and Jan Lehman. So there are a few that will hope to get it in on the second lap. You can see, I was talking about the length of the time around here. About a minute left, and Hisada's even himself going to have to hustle to get this done in time.
You're right. If you didn't exit pit lane as soon as qualifying started and stayed on it, you can be in trouble here for this second lap. And the other thing that I'm noticing, Joe, is that some of the track crossover points where they don't do the chicanes can be a little bit confusing if you don't practice here regularly. I wonder how competitors are going to have to face that, and if it's going to catch anybody out going into break zones.
I think by now, because of how many times they've driven this in this series, most should be familiar, unless this is essentially their first time, and hopefully they've done practice before this, because, boy, you need it at this place. Hisada, holding that provisional pole, comes around the last corner. He is going to make it in time. Tixier is a thousandth of a second slower than him, and we'll follow him to the line, so we'll check on that number 3 car here once we see what the Japanese driver has. And it's a 2:21.415, just slightly quicker, but not a lot. And Tixier is also looking like he might be on a quick one, but this could be tight, as he will just barely make it, maybe. I don't know. No, I don't think he's going to get there in time. It'll run out, and he will not be able to take that pole away, as we are done with qualifying. Togo Hisada takes the pole position. Tixier, maybe if he was just 2 seconds earlier on his time, would have had a chance at that pole, but he'll start from second. Ove Trangrade, P3. He is a gutsy driver, known for brave moves, so he could have advantages here. Gwen Old, 4th. I have to check to see if that's the best qualifying she's ever had, but she is definitely putting herself in a great position. Jim Shedlick starts 5th, and Topi Kortiniemi is 6th. Then it's Bill Tyler down in 7th, Laust Olsen in 8th, and then John Olsen, no relation, will start from 9th. Xavier Sanchez rounds out your top 10.
Jack David Spickett in 11th spot, Gary Quellen in the 12th position, Seamus Power 13th, Ben Zoko there in 14th, Gerard Borrell in the 15th place position, Gary Ho 16th, Michael Grissinger in the 17th spot, Marco Antonio Salgado there in 18th, Jan Hoffman in 19th, and David Rossi rounds out the top 20.
Robert Plumley starts 21st, and Cam Porter's the last one to set a time in 22nd. Nieva starting in 23rd. That's going to make life tough for him. Clapper, Saunders, and Lehman will be at the back of our 26-car field. We had a split, a bit rare in the Lotus 49s, but it happens as we have a warm day as well, 97 Fahrenheit. Not a track you want the cars slipping around much because of the high speeds at this place, and especially the jump off of the oval. You will likely see a few cars get airborne over the course of this race. Not something that you hear a lot on paved road racing here on iRacing. Checking to see, looks like we still need Sanchez. He's just popped out there. Other than that, just need Robert Plumley now as the only one in this line of cars that we can see a gap in the very back, and there he is. So we are ready to go, and the engines will now start to rev as the lights come up here today. And the green flag is out off the line. It looks like it's a very good start from fourth place, Jim Shedlick. In fact, he's going to go for the lead, but he has to lift, and he's all the way to the bottom, and this is going to hurt him. You are on the throttle for a long time here at this start. He'll lose speed, but the slipstream should bring him back.
They're starting to get stacked up in the middle of the field. You know, they thought about 2 and 3 wide, but wisely thought better of it. Pretty calm back here for now. As you see, it's 2 wide out front for the lead.
Oh, and just fanning out, cars trying to find space. It's not usually advised to go too wide through the oval, so they're trying to find themselves single file as they start to get up to maximum speed now. And pretty much everybody finding a little bit of space. Now, what about off the jump for the first time? Cold tires. Hopefully everybody can control it. Look at them leap over that. And thankfully, I'm not seeing any issues in the back. But here we go. 3 wide for the lead once again.
It's the big draft train. It looks like Topi Kortiniemi is out front with Tixier and Hisada side by side behind him.
Into Curva Grande for the first time in anger, as we watch them once again try to jockey for position. It can be scary through there, but it looks like they've managed it. And then, remember, there might be no chicane, but it does wiggle back and forth a little bit through there past the De La Roja. Up at the front, Kortiniemi leading Tixier and Hisada for their top 3, but it is still a huge train, and it's going to be a huge train most likely from much of this race.
Well, you see that train as we ride on board with Ove Trangrade right here. It's just nose to tail, and we're coming up to one of the only chicane areas that's on the track.
down into Ascari as they break once again, perhaps the slowest corner here over the course of the lap. Courtney still ahead of Tixier, not able to overtake him at this point. Out of there, watching to see if we get anybody now having an accident into or out of that chicane, and so far so good. Definitely a lot of sliding, that's for sure, but they've all made it through. So looks like we're going to be able to complete lap one pretty cleanly. Just a big checkup for Jim Shedlick. I said he'd recover with the slipstream. He's actually still in fourth.
Yeah, but a really good start. We mentioned this is only the complete of one lap of 15 that these competitors are going to do here. And now that things are starting to shape up more in the groove, you're feeling more at home in the race car.
And now here's where the Talladega comparison comes in. How do you want to position yourself? Where do you want to be in the group? Up front is always better, obviously, and you want to hold on to that lead pack, but where are you comfortable sitting? Because you don't have to lead, and you probably won't continue to lead as it's so easily swapped around just like this. Now Tixier is going to put himself on the point.
Well, and how I'm seeing it here is that really any of these cars within, 5 or 6 behind the initial lead car can get these huge runs. It's a matter of being respectful to how wide you are, meaning 2, 3 wide, and don't get the wheels tangled up.
Exactly, and Courtney is going to give a go at trying to take it back here. So there comes the other question. When and where do you try to make the move to take the win in this one? If you're in the hunt, as they're going to stay side by side in a big slide from Tixier, almost getting into Courtney. Hisada has to check up. Shedlick says, that's my chance to come forward. And he is going to move into third place past the Japanese driver. Behind them, Gwen Old is still in there in the blue machine. Could we see a shock victory for her?
I was just going to mention Gwen Old doing a really good job staying patient. She was actually on the outside line on a few of those sketchy areas while the leaders were dicing it up. Really nice driving from the number 17.
Gonna have to see if I have some stats about her best finish, best qualifying, some of those things here in all of our spreadsheets that we've got. Because I'm very curious now. She's usually a mid-packer, not seeing her up at the front like this very often. But clearly she is comfortable with the car today and put herself in a great position. Ove Trangrade's the one behind her right now, and they're all just kind of playing patient. In fact, I think, that looks like really the first major break we've got, but Bill Tyler is close enough. He's probably going to reel them back in here now that we get back to the oval.
Oh, we got a little bit of an accident further back in the pack. I think you see Seamus Power and Ben Zocco just got it wrong going into the brake zone right there, and they're both going to hit the reset button.
That happened down into Parabolica, it looks like, so I wonder if there was a botched pass attempt in there as we take a look at it. So out of Ascari, the sort of pinstriped car, that is the one of Zocco, followed by the light blue of Power, who's going to outbrake himself. Whoa, big hit between them.
I'm going to have some skid marks on the top of that helmet, but thankfully it's the virtual world.
Yeah, in the meantime, the lead is once again, right now in real time, swapping around. Tixier leads Courtney on the second part of the oval. We're watching on board with Seamus. Sometimes target fixation can be a race ender.
It can be, and it happens a lot easier than what you think out there. And here's Toby actually making the 3 wide move. Shedlick is going around the outside as well. Fantastic racing, but who's going to be brave enough to hold it around this next right-hander?
3 wide into there. Something's got to give between them. And on the inside, it looks like Courtney has the shorter line, and Togo Hisada, unfortunately, a little bobble from Tixier pushes him off course. He's going to be able to get it back on. He's still with the lead pack for now, but a scary moment for the red and white machine.
Hisada was able to save it, and most importantly, he's still in this draft train. It's pretty funny, Joe. You look at this draft train, it goes all the way back to something like 15th place.
Yeah, we usually see that at the starts of these races before you get a little bit of separation. Here's the replay. Yeah, just on the inside, I think that's Tixier who just drifts out. Hisada's in the wrong place at the wrong time, but manages to gather it up. And that is a spot where you have a lot of runoff to the outside, thankfully, and he gets back on the circuit.
Yeah, thankfully the trajectory of his car was still going the right direction, didn't get it all the way out to the wall, but here's Courteniami out front, followed by Shedlick, and also Tixier as they head into the Parabolica. All about the exit coming out of this corner.
Yeah, in the background, I loved that you can see this is one of those few cars without any of the aerodynamics that you'll really see drivers get sideways coming off of corners, coming into corners, honestly. It's not ideal, but it's very common for this thing to slide around as Shedlick now takes the fastest lap. That's going to be a bit of a crapshoot in itself as to who takes that bragging right. Topi Courteniami is your leader as side by side between a pair of Honda liveried machines coming through the oval.
I think that's got to be Hisada trying to work his way back up through the field, battling it out with Gary Quellen, and right now they just have to work together, get in the slipstream, and catch the lead pack again.
Quellen pulls in behind him as Hisada moves himself into ninth. They're going to continue to gain on those in front. They've got John Olsen ahead by about half a second. Amazingly, there, I love that angle. You can see the cars actually get fully 4 tires in the air. Amazingly, you will see cars pull a slipstream from 2 seconds back.
I mean, I'm watching it out front. Ove Trengray just went from 6th place to battling for the lead and then wisely backs out of it. And, we got contact up front.
3 cars coming together, 4, and Gwen Old gets by. Shedlick sneaks through. Looks like everybody else is going to be able to narrowly avoid it, but that could have caused the separation that we were warning about. But Topi, Courteniami, Sebastian Tixier, both involved. Who was the third one that wound up off course here?
I'm not sure, but it all happens here into this first right-hander. You're just going to see them stack up in nose-to-tail contact between our front 2 leaders, sends them around, and then it's dominoes after that.
This is the thing the drivers always worry about. Shedlick got a piece of it. That's going to be bad. And then the 12, that's Trangerade. Oh, it looks like he should be able to get back going, but Courteniami had to take a tow, and Tixier is, I think, limping around the track. The car is crabbing, unfortunately.
And I see Yanni Lehman, as well as maybe Gary Ho, just had some problems through Ascari, but I'm looking at the number 12 machine of Trengrade who is involved in that. I don't see any visual damage, so maybe Ove can salvage something out of this race still.
I do see a little bit of a crinkle on the nose of Shedlick, which doesn't seem like much, but remember, these cars will hit 200 plus miles an hour, and straight line speed being even damaged a little bit is probably going to come back to haunt you in some cases as we ride on board with Olsen here. And he has moved himself up into 5th, but look at the gap up ahead of himself and Hisada. Gwen Old and Tyler and Shedlick have definitely split, and it's past 2 seconds.
Yeah, but I think with the slipstream effect, as long as they don't make any mistakes and don't hold each other up here in this racing, they do have a shot at catching the front 3. It's just a matter of not being too aggressive and racing each other.
Yeah, and we're starting to hear some chatter from drivers saying we need to work together. They think they could still catch back up. In fact, it's down to 1.6 seconds. They're doing their best they're in a straight line here. This is this group trying to stick with it, and going way wide to the outside. That is Quellen, who is not going to stay with the group.
Yeah, gets pushed off, loses a bunch of track position, and more importantly, loses that draft there. And really impressed with Gwen Old. She's up there in the 3rd place position. She avoided that wreck, and she's been being very smart. These drivers are going 2 and 3 wide on the straightaways, but she's just hanging out, biding their time back there. We've got to remember, only working lap 5 of 15. Still a lot of racing left.
Absolutely. But I talked about the oval experience. I think that that is helping her know how to play this long game, as well as being a regular in this series for many seasons now. She follows in through the Ascari chicane behind Bill Tyler. Shedlick looking mighty quick in spite of the damage on the nose of the car. It looks like he's finding a way to stretch away from them. So my guess, Joey, is that for Shedlick, the goal is to be in front by the time they get to the road course.
I think you have to, and you got to look out because check out the number 4 car, Joe. Toga Hisada. Remember, he was back there with Laust Olsen on the pass straightaway this last lap, and he's ditched that group and already caught the front 3.
Wow, great speed for that number 4. Laust Olsen should probably feel a little bit of the effects because he's also within about a second of Togo Hisada. And they've also got Sanchez and John Olsen in there, so they can actually leapfrog. Kind of counterintuitive, but they can go faster in a group just by using that slingshot effect.
And it's tough to coordinate. When you're trying to slingshot around somebody, it has to be teamwork, is that if you get stalled out too wide, you have to let them by and get back in line, because the longer you're too wide, the more ground you actually lose rather than using that slingshot.
And there we saw a good example right there. Tyler ahead of Shedlick, but Shedlick had to facilitate it just a little bit. And then Jim's going to get it right back here on the main straight. Well, what is normally the main straight, and here is this kind of like a backstretch for this course in this case. And yeah, he stalls out. He's got that damage on the nose, and Tyler has to lift.
And it's something that I've been seeing is that these cars have a tremendous slipstream. However, they don't necessarily clear the car when they get up alongside. They get, right up alongside, halfway, 3/4 of the way, but then they do stall out, like you're mentioning.
Down into the Lesmos here, and yeah, Togo is there, Laust Olsen's there, Sanchez, John Olsen, and Jack David Spickett. I don't think we've even really talked about him. He's in this front group, and he started from 11th.
Impressive drive, and you're right, just hanging on the tail end of the front group, but we've seen multiple cars get caught up. It actually isn't a bad place to be right now.
Yeah, Spickett rated 18th out of this group. Again, not one that we usually see racing up at the front, but taking advantage of the situation to try and stick with it. Laust Olsen not particularly fast through the road course portion as he falls off of Hisada. That's going to be difficult if he does want to take the win, trying to hold the drivers back through that portion. And they're going to complete lap 6 now, so just about halfway through.
About halfway through, the cars are starting to get a little bit faster on fuel, and I tell you what, Joe, this racing has really been impressive. Every single lap, there's a battle for the lead with the slipstream, and these cars, I'm seeing 190 miles an hour through the banking. You're right. I thought we were going to see more too wide through the banking, but with how narrow it is, how steep it is, and how fast they're going, they're doing a great job to have these runs coming out onto the straightaway.
Well, the other thing, if we hop on board during the oval, it's the bumps. The bumps on this oval are just atrocious. Watch this, and you can see you're going 190, and you're doing a lot of corrections on the steering wheel.
Yeah, I'm watching these speeds, 194 miles an hour right now from Gwen Old. And then as we get out onto the straightaway, she takes advantage of the slipstream, already over 200, 205, almost 210. And look at a little bit further back, I believe this is Xavier Sanchez trying to make it 3 wide.
Holy cow, thought he was going to go for the lead there, but Sanchez did decide to back out of it. Tyler now caught on the outside. Gwen Old could move into second place. First time we've really seen her start to slice and dice with these guys, and now she is up into P2. So starting to make her move, get herself a little bit clear of some of them. Now that's going to easily switch back. This isn't to say she's going to stay put in that second place, but curious that after sitting contented in that third spot, now she's starting to place herself elsewhere.
Usually we see aggression move its way towards the front, but in the case of Gwen Old, she's just casually placed herself in the most safe position, and right now it's worked out that she's up into the second place, but safe position is a good position because when you have so many laps under your belt, you oftentimes put yourself where you need to be, and others make mistakes. She's capitalized it, and she continues to be one of the fastest cars on track.
Now, what got her here, you might be wondering if you've just joined us. We've got a replay of her onboard going through that wreck. Let's take a look at her perspective. This was fantastic awareness of the situation. Here she is right here. She can see it start to come together. They're 3 wide in front, gets back to 2 wide. Courtiniemi's already apologized. He feels like he got in too deep. He hits Tixier from behind. Now she can see this unfolding, but you're already in the midst of a turn and you got cars all around you. What do you do?
Well, not only wrecking in front of you, but you're right, Joe. Cars to your right side, so you can't turn right. You have to dance that line between you and the grass on the outside, and she does a fantastic job to sneak her way through there.
I didn't realize she was that close to the grass. I had seen on my replay that she got through. That is absolutely amazing. She was maybe an inch off of into the grass, and that would have been a spin or at least dragging her car out into the off track right there. But she just threaded the needle, and that has allowed her to be where she is today. Now, in real time, Togo Hisada is taking the lead, but Sanchez says, nope, it's my turn. He's going to weave through a whole bunch of cars, move from 5th to 1st, and he is going to take the top spot as they hit Curva Grande.
I mentioned aggression usually works its way towards the front, and that's exactly what Sanchez and Hisada did, although it looks like Shedlick's going to hold on to the second place right now, and we'll see what happens of this front group now that some players up front are a little bit more impatient, if you will.
And what about Bill Tyler in this as well? Because Bill's taken a win. I believe he was the winner actually at the other oval round in Charlotte. And he's kind of been pushed back to 5th, but we're only on lap 8. He hasn't seemed to have fought things too hard. He was a little earlier, but now that he was being overtaken, he just kind of let a bunch of these other cars move forward. So is he kind of seeing the writing on the wall? Does he expect something big to unfold?
Well, and don't forget about the car right behind Bill Tyler. That's Laust Olsen. He's having another fantastic run like he usually does, and don't count Laust out of anything.
Yeah, Laust hasn't been fast on the road course, but on the oval, he's still stuck with it as we watch the pucker cam, as we've dubbed it, coming out of Parabolica and onto the straight. Kind of surprised he doesn't have a permanent pucker, as that's usually a sign that he is a little bit nervous out there. And as they follow along the front stretch, they now tick on to lap 9.
I've been keeping my eye on these front 4, and I mean, really, it's the front 10 that are all grouped together, but these front 4 have shown a lot of speed, and I thought that maybe with Sanchez and Hisada coming up and really starting to lead this party, that they might gap it out a little bit, but the 17 has shown that she has tremendous speed. And look at this. Here comes Laust Olsen from way back at over 205 miles an hour catching the front 4.
Thinks about it, trying to go underneath Bill Tyler, then gets back to single file. Really can't go too wide very easily off the jump here. So that's why you see them all kind of slot in nose to tail through this part, and it's so narrow through there. And then they spread out once again, about 3 wide maximum. I don't think it's even physically possible to get 4 wide down this front stretch.
This has been the danger point where things start to compress here around this right-hander. You see them all squeezed together. 17's on the outside of the track, but looks like they're all going to make it through.
Hisada managing to move to the point, and with a big jump, honestly, he actually gets a fair bit of a gap over Shedlick with that run, so fair game to him. Olds had to back off a little behind Sanchez, and then Bill Tyler with a great heads up. You know, there's a good point from Topi Courtiniemi and his situation in this I didn't think about as much. With so many cars trying to come into that corner, the braking points have got to be modified pretty significantly. So those who are behind have to be aware to check up that a fair bit earlier.
Agreed. You know, in the modern cars, we don't see it as much because the delta difference is pretty similar. But in these cars with the tremendous slipstream, you're absolutely right. You have to modify your brake marker to adjust for your new top speed.
New top speed, new positioning if you're way off the racing line, all kinds of things to take into account. And hence why we could so easily see situations like Topi Courtiniemi running into the back of Tixier. Actually, Sebastian's back out on course after taking repairs, but he's 22nd. He's fighting for a championship, hence why he is back out there and just kind of trying to pick up spots, which, frankly, we tend to expect attrition to play a part in these races. It's kind of phenomenal that we only have had 2 drivers retire, and one of them, Topi Kortinami, is still taking repairs, so it could be only 1 car out.
Well, and usually when we look at a championship at the end of the season, it's about which races did you limit the bleeding the most? And this is definitely going to be one of those for Sebastian Tixier. He's just going to have to get back out there and salvage as many points as he can.
Shedlick moving past Hisada. Gwen had a run, but she lifted coming down the back stretch. She's happy with the 3rd place, at least for here. Sanchez, who was briefly leading, is now back down to 4th. I think we can... Whoa! Is
Sanchez
that
in the wall?
Ooh. For a second, I thought that was a lapped car. He was going so slow. Will he lose the slipstream, and how damaged is that car?
I'm looking at what happened here, and I think it's just one of these bumps caught out Sanchez and up into the wall. I'm really happy that everybody was able to escape underneath him, because that could have been pretty bad for the front 10, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, at those speeds, there's nothing you can do on banking like that. It basically just have to hold your line and hope you don't hit anything. So everybody makes it around the other side. Sanchez is still within the slipstream. In fact, it's down to 8 cars in that top group. They've lost Ove Trangrade. We're going to take a look at the incident and see what bump catches him here. So this is going to be through 2 and 3, essentially, or 3 and 4, essentially, on the oval. He's already hanging out high here through 1 and 2. And whoa, big lift. That tells you the closing speeds these cars have.
It happens every lap, Joe, and that's one of the cool parts of this racing.
Here we go as they come into the corner. So I think about somewhere around halfway here. Let's see. He's already drifting up a little bit high, little high, little high. Oh, there it is. Scrubbed a lot of speed. Drivers just frantically taking low to get around him. And amazingly, crisis is averted. Sanchez still in the hunt.
And, I'm watching him back here, and he is still on the back of the tail end of the lead group. However, I do think he has a little bit of damage. He's not able to be as aggressive as he was.
So down to 8, vying for a potential win. Unless that somehow takes out all 8 of them, then leading the second group right now, it's Quellen with Trangrade and Nieva in that one. Down the inside, watch the right-hand side. There goes Bill Tyler up to the point. He's going to take the lead away from Jim Shedlick. Hisada slots into 3rd, and Gwen Old down into 4th.
In that replay, we saw Sanchez not be able to time that run. Bill Tyler just timed that run to perfection. Past 3 cars the lead, but here comes Shedlick right on back, and look at this. 17 is going to try to make it 3 wide.
Oh, but she doesn't have the space. She has to lift. It's going to be Noah's Ark 2x2 coming up into Curva Grande around the outside. Togo Hisada chucks it in. Can he find the grip on the high side where there is no banking to speak of? He does. Great move there by Togo.
Well, you got to remember, Togo made some friends with the outside of the track there earlier. He knows the limits and what he can push.
Good point, and he used it to great effect as they all swap around once again. If you don't like the order, wait a lap, it'll change.
You're right, because I think that Togo is climbing all over the back of Bill Tyler. This is one of the patient areas of the racetrack, though, heading up into Ascari. Just got to make it through this section.
Yeah, the only time I think we're going to see passes is on the last lap down into here, if anybody's within range of one another at this point. But we've also seen situations where it absolutely explodes on the final lap with cars trying to go 3, maybe even 4 wide as we check back in farther down the field coming through Ascari. This is Cam Porter, another one of our onboards, I believe, today. Or is he not hooked up? There he is.
Always good to see Cam Porter and that face out there racing. Currently chasing down at Robert Plumley for the 14th position, going through the Parabolica. You see Plumley go out wide. This will give a good opportunity for Cam Porter to sneak right through the inside.
Absolutely. And That'll put him into 14th. Plumlee back to 15th. They've also got Marco Salgado behind them. Also, Cam, I appreciate your shirts. I grew up with an NES. That was one of my first game systems.
I'm happy you mentioned something about that, Joe, because I was going to make a comment, and yeah, I love the OG Nintendo. It was one of my favorites, too.
Coming down to 3 and 4. Neither's willing to give way. You can ride the bottom, and he's going to. Oh, boy, they got to get this sorted out at some point nearly into the barriers. Tyler is the one that loses the game of chicken.
And you see how much that compresses the field behind him up over the jump, and now we got 4 cars all in the slipstream. Laust Olsen as well going to take a peek, maybe even headed into this first right-hander.
Quesada to the inside of Tyler on the front row. Behind them, that's Shedlick and Old. Old's going to slot back into 4th. Quesada takes the lead. Shedlick nearly making contact. Gwen, great heads up once again in the same spot on the track, managing not to make contact.
Another tip of the cap to Gwen Old. She's just so calm and collected out there, no matter what is happening in front of her.
Just incredible skills to weave that car through the danger that surrounds her this entire race. Woo, big off there ahead of Olsen. That was Shedlick pushing the limits of the track through the Lesmos.
Well, and how many cars now have we seen overstep the limits, but the 17 continues to be one of the front 3?
Let's take another look at what happened from Gwen's perspective. Jim thought there was an opening. Oh, and they made just the tiniest of contact. Oh, Shedlick just had it off just now. Live, he is off in Ascari, and the car's crabbing. He must have had some sort of contact with someone. Day is over, I think, for Shedlick. He is back onto the track.
Yeah, and he was one of the front runners, one of the fastest cars going into Ascari. Looks like he loses it by himself here. We're going to get this replay riding on board with Shedlick. It happens coming up into the chicane, Joe. Maybe just a little bit too much entry speed, and the rear wants to steer first.
So what did he hit here? Because the car is definitely damaged. What happened? Oh, I wonder if Gwen Old's catching... I wonder if Gwen caught the suspension a little bit and that damaged the car, and he's finally feeling the effects.
I think so, and that can be very minor, and then when you get up to an area like that, it'll definitely catch you out.
Now, curiously, it was 8 cars, so it should be 7, but Ove Trangerade has run them down, and he's brought along everybody with him back to, I think, Jorge Nieva in 10th. That is phenomenal. They were 5 seconds behind at one point.
If you remember, Ove Trangerade was involved in that initial wreck. What was it there in turn 5 with all the leaders? And you're right. I've been keeping an eye on him, and he slowly but surely caught his way back up. They were 5 seconds back from this pack.
That's unbelievable. I didn't think they'd be able to do that, but they have been messing around a lot with this front group. With not much working together. So I guess it just kind of all came together, literally, and allowed him to catch back up. And there you can see it is a large group. Once again, lap 13. They'll get the signal for 2 to go. Next time by, Quesada is currently your leader. Tyler 2nd, Old 3rd, and Laust Olsen 4th.
And I know things have been far from calm in this race, but you mentioned it. They're going to be coming up to 2 laps to go. Time is starting to run out, and I think that the 3 wide moves are starting to become more aggressive.
Yeah, drivers are trying to put themselves in a position. If you're probably outside of the top 5, you got to start making some overtakes just to get yourself in place to maybe get a shot at the victory, unless you hope for that rare occasion of drivers taking each other out and you sneak through to take the win. Oh, Old is going wide. What's she doing?
She just got caught out. I think she just got in a little bit too deep, and she didn't want to get into the back of Bill Tyler. Wisely just went a little bit wide, but cost a lot of track position.
Didn't seem like she was in that hot. I almost wondered if she was kind of doing it intentionally to back off and let the others fight with each other behind. A little bit of side-by-side between Spickett and John Olsen there for a brief moment. This is going to be a huge run for Bill Tyler. He was a ways off Quesada.
Well, and remember, Bill Tyler does a great job at timing these runs, and once again, he does an awesome job out of turn 2, but check out Sanchez. He's actually only going to take one position away, but Joe, it's all about the timing coming out of these banked corners.
Yeah, this seems to be a case of we often in the oval world talk about the dominance of the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, just knowing how to race those super speedway races. Ironically, he didn't like them all that much. He was often very critical of the dangers of those, which was very tragic in the end for him, and considering how he lost his life. But boy, did he have the ability to just pick and choose where to place his car at the right time. Who is going to be the Dale Earnhardt of this race today, as Sanchez now takes the point. Bill Tyler is going to move back into second. Gwen Olds didn't lose anything in that off. She's up to third already.
She's starting to be more forceful on where she's putting her car on the track and sliced her way back up into the podium position, but really impressed. Xavier Sanchez out front right now. If we remember, he fell back a little bit from that contact. I was looking at his car. I thought maybe he had a little bit of damage, but apparently not.
Yeah, double checking to see if Sanchez has had a win yet in the series. I don't believe he has, but I'll try and pull up that stat as they bound over the sausage curbs through Ascari. The white flag being prepared by Barney the flag man. Sanchez leads, but will he be the same the next time around?
And Hasada's lining up Gwen Old right now. He's going to take a look down into the Parabolica, deep on the brakes, down the inside. Looks like he is going to capitalize on that position, but the 17 hangs tough on the outside.
All right, as they come past the start-finish line, Sanchez with such a big lead over Tyler might seem like a good thing, but we know Tyler has been able to suss out how big of a run he needs to try and take the lead away. Surely he's setting himself up between Old and Hasada, though. They also want to try and pull a run.
Well, and I think that's exactly what he's doing, and the two behind him are trying to race, and they're trying to time it all up. It's all accordion into effect, and look at this. We got the top 8 in one shot.
Xavier Sanchez has 2 wins to his name in this series, I can report. So he has topped the podium before, as now we're starting to go too wide through. He holds on to it. Hasada moves himself into second. Old ahead of Tyler. She got the run, but who's got it on the front stretch? This might be the critical point for the win.
Here comes Gwen Old with the head of steam. She's going to look down the inside. Oh, no! Heavy contact for her. Going to collect a couple cards, but it's still Sanchez and Hasada out front.
Oh, that's not what we wanted to see. She's not even going to be able to finish the race as she finally winds up on her tires. But I doubt the car is in position to try and drive to the finish from here. Now it's down to Hasada, Sanchez, Tyler, Laust, Olsen, Ove, Trangrade up at the front. But Togo Hasada holds the top spot. He gets a little contact from Xavier Sanchez.
Sanchez got into the back of him just a little bit. The two keep going. I don't see any damage. Hasada leads the way out front. One more Lesmo and the Ascari chicane, and he got the checkered flag in sight soon.
Hasada with 5 wins and a championship to his name in this series, looking to make it number 6 here today. He's got the track position ahead of Sanchez. He's looking for the move down into Ascari, but I'm not sure he's close enough. No, although a little bit wide there for Togo Hasada. Will he be able to hold on? We could see a move down into the Parabolica. He's a little slow off the corner here, Joey.
Sanchez is in the slipstream. He's definitely going to make a move down to the inside. Who's going to get off of the Parabolica the best?
He's got the outside. Hasada's going to have a hard time, but maybe the extra straight line on the wheel will give him the launch. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get the better traction off of there? Just a nose ahead for Togo Hasada, just barely above the car of Sanchez, and the win goes to Togo Hasada.
What a drag race from the Parabolica, and Hasada hung it out around the outside. You saw him just get to the throttle a little bit sooner and drag race it down for the checkered flag.
I couldn't hear what he was saying, but Hasada just sounded just apoplectic over the radio after that win. He couldn't believe what just happened, and he was 0.04 of a second ahead at the line. over Sanchez, laughing amongst them. They enjoyed the hell out of that. Oh my goodness, it had everything at the end, and we got to catch our breath. What a great race. As we're going to take a quick break, we'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews after this. Welcome back to Monza. The combined circuit always puts on a spectacular show here in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and today did not disappoint. Look at the gap at the finish. 0.04 of a second between Hysata and Sanchez at the line as they went side by side off the final corner to decide it. Bill Tyler wound up third behind them. Laust Olsen jumped up to fourth, and Ove Trangerade ran the lead back down to get fifth place today. Unbelievable stuff. John Olsen was P6, Gary Quellen 7th, and Jack David Spickett wound up 8th. Jorge Nieva, well, he wasn't with the front group, but he did climb his way forward from his failure to qualify from 23rd to 9th. And David Rossi managing a top 10 after starting 20th.
Jan Hoffman in the 11th spot. Robert Plumley coming home 12th. Cam Porter, one of our onboard, up 9 positions into that 13th finishing spot. Marco Antonio Salgado there in 14th position. Jason Clapper moved his way up into 15th. Jeff Saunders there in 16th. Gerard Borrell 17th. And I'm going to kind of sound like a fanboy here, but I really thought that Gwen Old was going to take the win in this race. Heartbreak here to have her finish down in the 18th position, but still on the lead lap there. Michael Grissinger in the 19th and Yanni Lehman rounding out the top 20.
Tixier, the only other person to finish in this field in 21st, a lap down. Everyone from there on down were DNFs. I said that I was surprised they didn't have more of them. Well, they eventually racked up in the end. We do have our 4th place finisher ready to talk to us. I hope we get some of our podium finishers in here to chat with. But until then, Laust Olsen, you were in the thick of that. You've been in this series for a long time. You knew what to expect. So how were you approaching this race? Were you biding your time, waiting for the right moment to move to the front?
Yeah, I was kind of playing the boring game, waiting and trying to pick up places when others hit problems. These draft races are very intense, and in reality, I'm not that good at all that fighting. So I was trying to survive mostly, and every time I hoped I could make a move somewhere, the road was blocked, and I often or most of the time then held back and tried to survive.
You had a bit of a front row seat of Gwen Old there on that last lap. What did it look like from your perspective, seeing the leaders start to go 3 wide?
Yeah, that was quite scary, but yeah, it's that's what happens on these tracks, and you have to get the best out of it and see if you can avoid the wreckage. I had a few times where I got lucky and avoided people spinning in front, so you need a bit of luck also to survive these races.
Yeah, thankfully it was smiling for you. I mean, knowing all that, does 4th place feel like a good finish for you here today, or do you think are you wishing you could have had more?
I would like to have more, of course, but I think 4th place is actually higher than I had expected before the race. So it's a quite strong field, and I'm sure if some of the fast guys hadn't hit troubles in the beginning, then I probably would have been further back. But that's how these races go. So you have to take what you can get and be happy about that.
Well, thanks for coming and chat with us. Hopefully you can calm your nerves down for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, I'll try. But Le Mans later in the evening in the Nissan won't be any better. So I don't think so.
Oh my goodness, it is a day of super speedway tracks for Laust Olsen here, who finished 4th here in the Grand Prix Legends Series. I do believe that we've got Cam Porter, who is a little bit farther down the order, and Joey has caught up with him.
Well, Cam, you come home 13th place here, up 9 positions. Does that feel pretty good in terms of your way through the field?
Yeah, absolutely, because I was the slowest qualifier, I'm sure you noticed. So I was really thrilled to bring it up 9 positions, and we had a really fun, exciting race with several guys around me who raced, conscientiously and patiently. So thanks to those guys. Yeah, it was a really fun race today.
Well, talk to us about that racing, because this is one of the interesting tracks that you guys go to with the combined layout. And no matter where you were in the field, it seemed like there was huge draft packs and groups of people to race.
Absolutely. Well, our little group kind of fell off the top 10, so we were kind of fighting amongst ourselves. But they were being pretty patient, just waiting for their opportunities like I was. I wasn't trying to force any daring moves or anything like that. I was trying to focus on survival for the most part. I took my opportunities when they came around. I was playing patient, trying to set up a move, knowing that I could get a good draft on the long straights here. Jason Clapper had a little more pace than I did, and he was right in there. Unfortunately, he went off twice in Lismo 1. Unfortunately, he went off, and then he caught back up, and then he went off again. So, poor guy. I feel bad for him. But that was a great race. I guess that's all I got.
Well, last thing that we got to ask you, because Joe and I noticed the shirt when we were looking at you on the broadcast today, and with the original Nintendo, what's the throwback? What's your go-to game on the OG Nintendo?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Probably Super Mario series. It's probably the classic. Actually, honestly, this should be an Atari joystick.
Okay, throwback even further, huh?
Yeah, I'm old enough to have played Atari 2600.
Well, we'll keep it here on iRacing, and before I let you go, anybody you want to say hi to?
Just want to thank the guys that I was racing with today that were conscientious and patient and provided some great fun racing today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and that was Cam Porter, your 13th place finisher.
Well, that is going to wrap us up. Sadly, didn't get to talk to any of the podium finishers, but we do want to thank the Grand Prix Legends community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race will be at Silverstone. That's the legacy version, actually, for the Grand Prix circuit at Saturday, February 11th, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts, including the Camel GT series. As you heard, it'll be Le Mans, and that's the historic version, so it really will be like what we saw just now at noon Eastern today. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.